Hi everyone, it's Monica, and welcome back to Tailor-Made Cards for You. Well, today I wanted to share with you one of my latest kits called Mrs. Darcy's Diary. And if you are a fan of Pride and Prejudice, you're going to love this kit. It has lots of florals and it comes in a sort of Victorian theme. So if you've never visited my shop, I wanted to share with you how to maneuver through it. I have a filter on the left-hand side, and all of my digital images are under my digital images filter, and then you can decide how you want to search through the kits. If you want to just kind of peruse all the digital images, you can just check on the digital images. I got my kits in my bundles, and then I have them also sorted by your calendar themes. So winter would have your Valentine's Days, fall would be Halloween printables, and so forth. So to find the kits, all you need to do is go on your digital kits and bundles, and you'll find them all here. And I wanted to explain to you the difference between a kit and a bundle. A kit typically will come with about 4 pages, and it's more for your card makers, whereas the bundles have everything that you will find in the digital kit, but a lot more. And this is more for your journal makers because you're going to get journal pages and a lot more ephemera. So as you can see, this kit has some beautiful pages, and I have to say it's probably one of the favorite of mine in my recent creations because, again, it just has some beautiful florals and it's going to create some beautiful projects. So today I wanted to share with you a project or some projects that I made using this kit, and then I'll show you how I created my little diary. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here are some of the projects that I created using this beautiful kit. And I have to say that this probably is one of my more favorite kits just because there are some beautiful Victorian images, and I just love to be able to layer with pretty items. So I made a couple of cards, and again, I'm using just my layering. And then I also was able to decorate the inside of the card as well. The inside was created using the ATC image, and I just sized it up for an A2 card. And then as you can see, I printed out one of the pages into an 8x10, and I created a matching envelope. I also created my passport card, and I've created videos on these before. It's a 3-layer card, and I decorated all of the surfaces using the paper, and then I added some really pretty ephemera to just add as little tucks. And I have my postcard, and then I have a quote from Mrs. Darcy. And then again, this card is the size of an A2 card, so it fits nicely into the envelope as well. I added finally a little Victorian calling card that says Mrs. Darcy on it as well. So here's the project that I wanted to share with you because we're going to create this today. And it is a single signature journal. And as you can see, it has a hardcover that I covered with some of the paper. So what's great about digital kits is you can size them down to the size that you need for your project. And while these journal inserts were 8x10, I did size them down to fit into a diary size journal. And as you can see, I added not only the printed paper, but also some lined paper as well. So you can add notes and whatnot. And here is an example of a larger pieces of paper. So if you wanted to create a larger journal, you can certainly do that as well by just resizing your images. But that's what is fun about digital kits is you can modify them to your needs. And this particular one, like I said, the kit is called Mrs. Darcy's Diary. So I wanted to size it down to the size of a diary and just create a little journal book. So what I wanted to share with you today is how to actually create the outside of the book. Once you get the outside of the book, then you can easily just figure out what your signatures are going to be. And this is a really easy design. You can size down the book to exactly what you need. And then to create your binding at the end, you're just going to get the same size of thicker cardstock, and then your score lines are a 1/2 inch. So you're going to need a 1/2 inch on each side, depending on how many signatures that you need. You're going to want to increase the scoring by a 1/2 size, or a 1/2 inch, I should say. So with mine, I ended up creating 3 signatures. So I have 4 score lines. The 2 pieces on the edge are what connects to my cover and my back, and then the score lines in the middle are where I attach my signatures. So once you figure out the size that you want to make, then you're going to want to go ahead and take your back and your front cover, and you're going to want to line it with your designer paper. Now, as you can see, I am using black cardstock, and this is a thicker cardstock. I didn't necessarily want it to be as thick as my initial journal, which was the smaller journal. And for that, I used grunge board, but I wanted it to be still sturdy. So I got a thicker cardstock, and then I printed out my digital images on some thinner paper so it wouldn't be too thick. And then I just sized it down, figured out exactly what image I wanted to show for my cover, and then I glued it down. Now, not only can you use glue, of course, you can use double-sided tape, any adhesive that you know is going to be strong enough to adhere your image to your cardstock. And you're going to want to do that on both the front and the back, and then the inside as well. Now remember, you're going to want to glue both sides, the top and the back first, and then trim it before you actually add the layers on the inside. I used a trimmer and both my scissors to cut down the paper, so whatever works for you, you can just trim down the paper. And definitely get as close to the edge as possible. I mean, you should be able to line it up pretty easily. The cardstock that you're using should be at least 110 pounds for your thickness, which will give you a nice sturdy front and back layer. And then once you get it cut down, then you're just ready to do the same thing to the inside part of your journal. Now remember, when you are covering your journal, your front and your back, if you have a design that needs to go a certain direction, make sure that you pay attention. You're going to see here when we flip to the inside of my journal, I didn't pay attention, so my flowers are upside down. But I have some matching stickers that go to this kit that I was able to easily just cover up that floral bouquet that was upside down. So I wasn't really worried about it when I saw it, because I knew that I would be able to fix that with some ephemera pieces covered right over that. So just keep that in mind. If you are using paper that does need to go a certain direction, make sure before you adhere it to your panels, you are paying attention to the direction of your design. Okay, so once you have all of your paper covered, you're going to want to go ahead and start to work on the binding. Now, before you do that, you want to make sure you have some finishing touches. And what I mean by that is if you're going to round your corners on your front and your back panel, you're going to want to do that before you add your back binding to your book. Also, it's always nice to add a little walnut stain distress ink to the edges, especially if you are using something thick in between your paper, because you want to make sure you don't see any white space. Now, as you can see also on my 2 panels, I do have a little bit of a border on the back, and that's because I knew I was going to use my binding to cover it. But remember, your binding is only a 1/2 inch, so you don't want to leave too big of a white border. I just did it because I didn't want to cut into my shoe design on the front part of the page. I wanted the whole design to show. So I left a little bit of white showing, knowing that I would cover it. Okay, so once you've determined how big you want your book to be, and what I mean by size is your signatures, you're going to want to go ahead and cut down your backside. Now, I can't really tell you what the size dimensions are. Obviously, it's going to be the same size, the length of your journal, but depending on how many signatures you're going to add is how many score lines you're going to add. So I have a 3 signature journal that I'm putting together, so I have 4 score lines. So just keep that in mind. However many signatures you have, you're going to want to take into consideration you need a 1/2 inch for the front, 1/2 inch for the back, and then your middle portion for your signature. So this journal, like I said, was 3 signatures and it had 4 score lines, and my smaller journal had 1 signature and it had the 2 score lines. And as you can see, I'm just using my adhesive to adhere my panel. And if you are using wet adhesive, you're going to want to let it sit aside for a bit to dry. You can also use your double-sided tape. That would work just as well. So whatever adhesive you have in your stash, just make sure that it has good drying time, because this is going to be a little book that gets opened and closed. All right, so with a little drying time, I was able to come back and add my hole punches. So when you're going to add your hole punches, I like to use my big cropper, and this cropper is great because not only can I add the holes, but if you decide to add the eyelets to cover the holes, it works really nicely. So as I walk you through this, I just kind of want to talk a little bit about that. So when you go to punch your holes, you're going to want to figure out exactly how deep you want your holes to be. And keep in mind that this is going to be important to realize that your page needs to be small and in between the holes, unless you're going to actually attach it to the journal binding. So I like to create pages where I can put them in and pull them out in case I want to replace it. I'm sure a lot of you will sew your signatures right into your journal, but I don't tend to do that. I tend to use the elastic where I can add my paper inside of my signatures. So I have to keep that in mind when I am punching my holes, and that's why I tend to have my holes as close to the edge as possible. So that's what's nice also about the cropper, is once you figure out exactly the depth of your holes that you're going to punch, you'll get the same depth on each one because it's preset. So with that figured out, I was able to go ahead and punch the holes into my journal. And then for this demonstration, I didn't add the eyelets, but if you do decide to add your eyelets, that cropper is great to add those as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, round my corners, and I'm going to punch the holes into the journal. Now, like I said, if you're going to round your corners, you should do that before you add the binding. I didn't do that, so don't follow by copying what I just did, because I really recommend rounding your corners before you actually add them to the journal. But if you don't, it's not going to affect the sturdiness of the journal. You just won't have that clean edge inside. Okay, now for this video, I went ahead and I punched all 6 of my holes. You're going to want to do the 3 holes on the bottom and then 3 holes on the top. And this is going to be where you thread your elastic through. Now, once you punch your holes, you can add eyelets. And then using your crocodile, you can squeeze these eyelets to reinforce them on the back of your journal. Now, I prefer having the eyelets. I like the way the finished look is on the books that I create. But if you don't have eyelets, your holes are nice, crisp holes, so you don't necessarily have to do that if you don't have the crocodile or if you don't have the eyelets in your stash. So now that you have your holes punched, it's time to thread your journal. And I just use some regular elastic thread that I get at Joann's. And this enables me to add my signatures in between my elastic. So it's a really easy thread. I typically will start at the end. And as you can see, I'm just going to thread it through. So that way on the back side, I just have the elastic showing at the top and not all the way up and down. So that's just the way that I do it. If you like to have those lines on the back side of your journal going up and down, then you can just thread it where it would show that as well. And then once I have my elastic threaded, then I make sure that it is taut in the middle. So I will pull it a little bit so that the elastic does stretch when I go to tie it. And that way my pages won't be floppy on the inside, and I'll have nice tight elastic to hold my paper. So as I finish up here, I just want to remind you that this is a video hop, so we will have several designers participating in the hop, creating projects using this beautiful kit called Mrs. Darcy's Diary. And as an added bonus, any commenter that makes a comment on my video will be entered into a drawing to win this kit. And I'm going to be giving away the bundle. So you're going to get not only the 4 pages that come in the kit, but you'll get all the papers that go in the journal as well. So it's a really beautiful kit. So if you want to be entered into my drawing, make sure that you do leave a comment on my video. And please be sure that you are a subscriber, because you do need to be subscribed to be qualified as a winner. So as always, I'll leave a list of all the products that I've used to create this cute little diary, along with the links to the stores. And if you've enjoyed my video, please leave a thumbs up, because that really does help the channel. Now, again, this is a video hop, so look for the link for your next video right below my description box, and that will take you through the hop. All right, everybody, thanks so much for stopping by, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button before you head out. We'll see you again next time.